Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, of course, but we do things a little bit differently. We're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the sleeper story, one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, the most remarkable story, and our favourite story. So let's jump straight into it. What was the biggest story for you this week?
Hard to go past the Reserve Bank lifting interest rates another 25 basis points. Basically, if you've got a loan of, let's say, $750,000, you're finding yourself paying $1,500 or $1,600 more a month. Quite incredible. Thing is, Reserve Bank thinks there still might be need for another rate rise. Inflation just isn't coming back under control as quickly as it wants. Economists were outraged. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews said the Reserve Bank had smashed families. Basically, the Reserve Bank is worried about inflation. It's worried about productivity. It's worried about consumer demand. Mind you, Michael, this week, there are a few companies that came out that said consumers aren't spending as much. JB Hi-Fi was one. Super Retail Group was another. Anyway, massive story for the week.
Yeah, sure was. The biggest story for me this week was actually from Qantas, and arguably the highest profile corporate job, I would say, in the country is being the CEO of Qantas. And this week we found out that the person replacing Alan Joyce, who's been in the job for 15 years, will be the group's chief financial officer. Vanessa Hudson is obviously an iconic company. While Alan Joyce has been in charge, there's been kind of plane groundings and airfare wars and union battles galore, and of course the pandemic, which would be the biggest challenge ever faced by the airline. And Vanessa Hudson did a pretty impressive job of managing the company's balance sheet during COVID-19, with the airline recently returning to profitability. Pretty good CV for the incoming CEO. Remarkable as well that the two candidates, the two finalists essentially for the role, out of 40-odd candidates, were both internal. I think it shows the power of good succession planning within that business. I thought it was a big story this week.
Absolutely. Michael?
Most remarkable. Can I go first on this one?
Sure.
Well, for me, the last 7 days have really been a defining period for the future of energy in Australia, which I know sounds a little bit dramatic, but I mean, there's been a few big things that have happened. The Snowy Hydro pumped storage unit, $5.9 billion project, going to overrun its already significant budget. It's going to be late as well by up to 2 years, might not be fully online until the end of the decade, which raises kind of fears about the reliability of the East Coast electricity grid. At the same time, we had in the last kind of week or so the closure of the Liddell coal-fired power station that was closing after more than 50 years of burning fossil fuels to generate electricity. And the full capacity of Snowy 2.0 won't now be available until 4 years after another big power station, the Eraring power station, is due to shut down in 2025. So it just kind of feels like maybe we've got clearly the transition to greener energy underway, but are we going to see a bit of a shortfall in the meantime? And also, Sean, just one more little one, electric vehicles. The sales are continuing to climb. They made up 8% of new car sales last month. A year ago, it was a touch over 1%. So clearly, people are getting on board with new ways of thinking about energy in Australia.
Sure. I did know that 10 million EVs were sold last year in the world, and they're going to sell 14 million EVs this year. Incredible. For mine, Michael, the remarkable story of the week was just how quickly the banks fell out of favour. Big falls in the share price of Commonwealth Bank, National Australia Bank, ANZ, Westpac. National Australia Bank reported a pretty good profit for the half year to the end of March. $4 billion. ANZ came in at $3.8 billion. Macquarie Group came in at $5.2 billion. Still, they're very much on the nose at the moment, mostly because of what's happening in US regional banks.
Yeah, that is remarkable. Sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a little bit, Sean. What have you got?
For mine, it was oil prices. They fell 10 to 15% this week. Now, most of us think that's good news because we see it at the petrol bowser. Petrol prices should be lower in the next few weeks. But it has massive flow-on effects to the rest of the Australian economy and global economy. Oil is very inflationary. We've had high oil prices for quite a while now. The fact that they're back down to COVID levels, 2021 levels, suggests that maybe the pressure will come out of inflation. Think of all the buses we use around the transport, all that sort of stuff. They all use oil. The fact that oil prices have come off is really, really significant for the economy, but no one's talking about it. Great sleeper story.
Yeah, sure is. Let's move on to favourite story of the week, Sean. vaping. The federal government's going to phase out vaping, which I think is actually pretty good news, because it's one of those things that just, you don't like walking through it when you're walking down the footpath. And I know that makes me sound like a whinger, but I actually really don't care. It was originally supposed to be a way for smokers to quit. It's become a recreational product with a lot of teenagers now doing it. And really, it is becoming one of the biggest problems for young people. The government is going to ban imports of non-prescription vaping products, banning single-use disposable vapes. They won't be available in retail stores anymore. Only pharmacies have to have kind of plain packaging, plain flavors. The tax on tobacco is going to be rising as well. It really does just feel like there is a crackdown now happening on this whole space, Sean.
Sure does. Look, just a quick mention, Charles III will become the king of the empire tonight. I think that's a pretty important story. He's the oldest monarch ever, also the richest to assume the throne. Funny how little chat there's been in Australia about this. Anyway, Charles has done, like him or loathe him, he has raised billions of dollars for charities over the years. He's president of 19 charitable trusts, which raise about $200 million a year. He's a patron of more than 400 charities. Good luck to him.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything that you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow, and also the Amazon Echo smart speaker range. Check that one out. It comes with Alexa built in. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode. You can grab yours now at amazon.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.